Hi everyone, welcome to this video going over solving equations. Let's get started. When we solve an equation, we are trying to get the variable all by itself. So we start by drawing a line at our equal. And I have to assess what is happening. So the 19 is being subtracted so that I can figure out the opposite operation. So the opposite of subtracting 19 would be adding 19. So if I add 19 to each side, I will get that v is equal to negative 20. And remember, you get to use a calculator on your final. So if you are able to know that you have to add 19, all you have to do is plug in negative 39 plus 19 into your calculator. Let's try number 2. I am trying to get p all by itself, so I draw a line at my equal sign. The 16 is being subtracted. The opposite of subtraction is addition, so I'm going to add 16 to both sides, and I will get that p is equal to 19. For number 3, once again, I circle my variable, and I draw my line at my equal sign. The negative 20 is right next to the n, which means they are being multiplied. If you ever see a number directly next to a variable, that's indicating multiplication. So to cancel out multiplication, I need to divide by negative 20. And when I do that, I will get negative 4. For number 4, once again, I circle my variable, I draw my line. The 14 is being subtracted, which means I need to add 14 to both sides. And I will get that x is equal to negative 13. For number 5, I'm going to circle my variable. And I have 2 numbers on that side now. So remember, always start with the furthest number from the variable. Which means, since 5 is attached to the a, I'm going to start with the 4. Since the 4 is being subtracted, I'm going to add 4 to either side. 26 plus 4 gets me 30. And now I'll get rid of the 5. The 5 is being multiplied to the a since they're directly next to each other, which means to get rid of the 5, I need to divide it, which will give me a is equal to 6. For number 6, I circle the variable and I draw my line. I start with the number furthest from the x. So since the 7 is attached, I'm going to start with the 4. The 4 is being subtracted, so I need to add it to both sides, which will get me 7x equals 42. Now I need to get rid of the 7, so I'm going to divide. And I will get x is equal to 6. Moving on to number 7, I need to use the distributive property, which means I need to double rainbow. I need to multiply the 3 to the k and the 2. 3 times k is 3k. And 3 times 2 is 6, which equals 42. The first thing I'm going to do is subtract 6, which will get me 36. And then I'm going to divide by 3, and I will get that k is equal to 12. For number 8, I'm going to draw a line at my equals, and every time I see parentheses, I need to double rainbow first. Because I just have a negative, I'm going to treat that like a negative 1. Negative 1 times 7 is negative 7. And negative 1 times negative 6x will be a positive 6x. Because when I multiply two negatives together, it gives me a positive. And then I have the 8x by itself. And I have the negative x plus 38 on the left side. Since I have an x on both sides, I'm going to claim the left side as the x side and the right side as the number side. And I'm going to get everything where it belongs. So I need to subtract 38 to the other side. And that will get me negative x equals negative 45 plus 6x plus 8x. The negative 45 is on the correct side because it's only a number, but the 6x is not. I have to subtract 6x to either side. Negative x minus 6x will get me negative 7x. And I also have to subtract 8x because 8x needs to be on the x side. And I will get negative 15x equals negative 45. And the last thing I need to do to get x by itself would be to divide negative 15. Negative 45 divided by a negative 15 means that the negatives will cancel out, leaving me with x equals a positive 3. Moving on to number 13. If you notice, these vertical lines mean absolute value. When you have an absolute value equation, you need to solve it twice. Once for a positive 44 and once for a negative 44. Notice how I am keeping the 4 plus 8x the same, and it's the 44 that is changing. One is positive and one is negative. To get x by itself, I'm going to subtract 4 to both sides. 8x is equal to 40. And then divide by 8, and I get that one of my answers is 5. Now I'm going to solve the other side. I'm going to subtract 4 once again. I get 8x is equal to negative 48. And if I divide by 8, negative 48 divided by 8 will get me negative 6. So when you solve an absolute value equation, you should have two solutions, two answers. Let's try this again with number 14. I'm going to split this into two problems. 7 minus 6a equals positive 43, and 7 minus 6a equals negative 43. Notice how the 7 minus 6a stays the same, and it's the 43 that is changing. Since this is a positive 7, I need to subtract it to both sides, and I will be left with negative 6a equals 36. And then I need to divide by negative 6 to get a by itself. 36 divided by negative 6 will leave me with negative 6. On the other side, once again, I'm going to subtract 7. This will get me negative 50. And I'm going to divide by negative 6. And a will equal, two negatives will cancel out to be a positive, and 6 does not divide 50 evenly, but I can simplify. I know that they're both divisible by 2, and so if I divide 2 to the top and the bottom, I will get 25 over 3 for that answer. Don't be scared of fractions. They can happen. And you don't have to write it as a decimal or plug it into your calculator. You just have to leave it as an improper fraction. Our last problems, solving inequalities in graphing. So if you notice in 15, I have the x on the right side of the inequality. It is easier if the x is on the left side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly rewrite this problem with the x on the left. I have to make sure that my sign is facing the correct way though. Notice how it's opening towards the -6. So when I rewrite my equation, it should still be opening towards the -6. I then am going to double rainbow, distribute. -6 times -1 will be a +6. And -6 times x will be a -6x. Greater than 54. Even though it's an inequality, I can still draw my line, and I'm still solving the same way. I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides, and I'll get -6x is greater than 48. And then in order to get x by itself, I'm going to divide by -6. I need to remember though that when I divide an inequality by a negative, I have to flip the sign. So 48 divided by -6 will be a -8, and my sign is going to switch. Because there is no line underneath this inequality sign, I'm going to have an open circle at -8, and my arrow is pointing to the left. So my line is going to go towards the left. And last but not least, 16. The m is on the left side, so I am good to go. -5 minus 2 is less than -77. I'm going to start by adding 2 to both sides, which will get me -5m is less than -75. I'm going to divide by -5 to both sides, and since I'm dividing by a negative, I have to flip the sign. -75 divided by -5 will get me m is greater than 15. Since there is no line underneath, I have an open circle, and my line or my arrow is pointing towards the right. So my line will go towards the right side. And that was our review on solving equations. We had some multi-step equations in there, absolute value, and inequalities. I hope this helped remind you how to solve these types of equations and inequalities. Please let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you in class.